Aloha, beautiful family, beautiful golden galactic cosmic celestial pod on our beautiful planetary body that is in acceleration and takeoff. We bliss here to do a little love stream. We've been feeling all these pieces and parts today, and just nothing has been like coming together in articulation, and yet we've been in this field of the guidance, like preparing we to share a transmission. And so we're going to share about the princess lines, and this gets into grid work, and we're inspired to share at this time many pieces again of we's own journey, such that they may assist others to put pieces together for themselves right now as we're going through this shift. So what the guidance is showing right now is for anyone who has ever seen cymatics. Cymatics is a demonstration of how vibration affects form. And you can see, if you Google cymatics, C-Y-M-A-T-I-C-S in YouTube, you'll see lots of videos. And what the videos show is that sometimes a steel plate is used, and maybe sand or some kind of like salt particles are placed on that metal sheet, and then a vibration is run through it, and vibration is sound. And so the sound vibrates the particles such that they create a form. And those forms kind of look like snowflakes or geometries. And as the sound shifts, so does the form. So what the guidance is showing for all of we right now is that, you know, we're in, let's call it a particle acceleration. And so what has been happening on the planetary body that we are on and that we are part of, we're made of the planet, we're made of the stars, we're made of particles. And so if we were in a particle acceleration, so to speak, just like in cymatics, when a new vibration is sent through that metal sheet, the geometry that is formed starts shifting. So the thing with cymatics is, as the sound is coming through, the particles are never solid. They're always bouncing and vibrating, and there is space in between all of those particles. So it looks like they're making a solid formation, but they're not. They're really not making a solid formation. And that is it is a reflection of what is happening at every level of what appears to be solid, is that it's actually always vibration and space. And so these particles in the cymatics plate form a geometry. And as we say, when a new sound, when a different vibration is sent through the plate, all those particles start vibrating. They start bouncing up and down, and there is more space in between them as they're being reorganized into new shape. So if this love stream is inspiring, please share it. That's called gifting. You can share it out right now. There's a little button down there that allows you to like or share. So let's share this out. Okay. So if we go back to that cymatics example, one can imagine that when the sound is emanating through the plate and the form looks fairly solid, that would be kind of like what it was like on the planet for thousands or tens of thousands of years or whatever. It's basically, we can think of each little particle representing one of us. And so when that form was fairly stable and the same vibration was going through the plate, each little particle would have remained in a fairly localized space. And so we can think of that as our old relationships and our old families and our old jobs and the way that we did things and all those things. Then when the new vibration starts to come through the plate, those particles begin to move quicker and they create more space. There's more space created between them through a different vibration affecting the shape. And so these little particles move farther away from each other. And that would be a great metaphor for what has happened to people in their lives, in their families, in their relationships. Why have things changed so much? Because the emanation, the signal coming from the planetary mothership that we are on has shifted and changed. As it shifted and changed, it causes those particles to move away from each other to create more space for the shape to change. And then those particles may become closer to other particles. So this is all a metaphor, because as our beloved astrologer, astronomer, Oracle of the Stars, Shane Shima says, life is all about myth, math, and metaphor. So if life is all about myth, math, and metaphor, we're using analogies and metaphors here to have a better understanding from our personal perspective of what is happening. So as the vibration goes through the plate and all the particles begin to shift and change, and they begin to move into other areas based on their density, based on their resonance, and everything is getting shifted up. It's kind of like when a gold panner, would pan for gold, and they take a little bit of the dirt and put it in their pan and shake it up. So everything is being shaken around, and that's why the indigenous prophecies told us, why the Hopi prophecy said, at this time, hold on to nothing. They told us to push off from the edge of the river. We share this, all the miracles in time. We're going to keep sharing it, because right now there's incredible things happening on the planet, like the Grandma Quiero of the people of Peru yesterday was at the Great Pyramid in Giza, and there was a huge gathering there. A huge gathering. Why were so many indigenous elders from Peru gathering in Egypt? Because what the indigenous have been holding on the planet for me and for you is the understanding of the star maps. So the indigenous have held for generation upon generation the wisdom and understanding of the time of transformation that was coming. And we, Bliss, from We's own journey, we'll sprinkle little pieces in here so that might make it more accessible for some of those who are viewing this transmission, to understand that these changes are real and that they've happened through a lot of preparation on the planet. My role as an active grid worker on the planet involved many miraculous steps and experiences. And one of those was to be invited by my Hopi elder and the Hopi to carry their corn to South America to participate in the fulfillment of the prophecy of the union of the eagle and the condor. So I was invited to Hopi Nation in December of 2014, and we went into ceremony when the shamans were in the kivas, and it was a very special alignment that night. It was called the Isis portal by some of the astrologers, and I was asked on that night if I would carry Hopi corn to South America. So the Hopi, in the prophecy of the union of the eagle and the condor, the eagle is North America, and it's like the mind or the masculine, and the condor is the feminine, and South America and the heart. So probably everyone listening to this knows this. Why are we sharing this right now? Because we're piecing pieces together step by step to understand what's happening on the planet right now, and bringing it back to this piece about cymatics and how everything is shifting. So yesterday we shared a couple of love streams on Facebook, and they're all in the description box, the links down there if you want to keep following along all of these different transmissions that we are sharing. And again, if this love stream is inspiring, please share it. That's called gifting. That's the greatest gift we can give, is sharing wisdom and information that is assisting us in this great process of transfiguration. So many of the indigenous, for generation upon generation, knew that this time was coming. The Western world got a little out of skew and lost their connection to nature. Maybe not all. We're not generalizing, we're just saying that for many in the Western world, the connection to nature and the connection to the cosmos and the stars was lost. And so the Western world and the cities tend to be vibrationally slightly out of alignment with nature. The indigenous who walk on the earth in shoes that are made of things other than rubber, and who live much closer to the earth without electricity, and in different styles of homes, and much more deeply connected to nature, have not lost their cosmic connection for this time of great shift. So this is why all of our Kiro indigenous, or many, were at the Great Pyramid yesterday in Egypt, because they're in great celebration right now, because they know that the transformation has happened on Pachamama. The vibrations, the signals have been sent out, and they've known for many generations that this is coming. And so it's this huge celebration. I put the link in my description box. I put many posts on my page of that event that occurred at the Great Pyramid yesterday, Miracle Day. So a lot of our indigenous on the planet are the Stargate portal keepers. And in the fictional fiction, we could say that technology began to create artificial stargates. So some of us were assigned a role on the planet to go around and shut down all of the artificial stargates that were created just the same way when rivers are redirected from their natural course, when humanity or man redirects the flow of water with damming and with redirecting rivers and filling in floodplains and marshes and building houses on them and so on. That's a very big disconnect from nature, because nature is much more powerful than the human mind, ego, and psyche. So, you know, this is kind of, if this love stream is inspiring, please share it. That's called gifting. This is kind of where the Western world has fallen off the rails of staying in alignment, whereas the indigenous are rising. Not only are they rising, they're risen, and they're in great celebration on the earth. In 2017, I was invited to Burning Man, to a camp called Red Lightning. And Red Lightning, I met the camp in 2016 when I spent a few months at Standing Rock. And I came to Standing Rock after doing a miraculous grid work all over the planet for many years, but I had just come from Europe, and I had just come from doing a service to unplug the Vatican. And so keep in mind, we are all one human family. There's no good, bad, right, wrong. There's no evil and good in this transmission. Everyone has played a different role in the play, and that play has come to its great point of transition. So I had just come from the Vatican doing some major ceremonies for unplugging the Vatican from the grids. It would be just like if water, the natural flow of a river, was redirected by humans, and other humans came along to direct that flow back to its natural flow. So that's what a lot of us grid workers did. And we were guided by inner planes mentors and spirit and source and nature. We were guided by nature, a consciousness that goes beyond borders and boundaries and all of that. It's a consciousness that can really only be connected into when the heart and the mind are unified, and we surrender ourselves to a greater consciousness to guide us. So in my journey on the grids, I, for many miracle years, kind of felt like I was a puppet to that greater source consciousness of nature. And I walked many years, basically 5 years, barefoot on the grids before I put a pair of shoes back on, which felt kind of nice when I did it. But anyways, back to what is now happening on the planet, and we're inviting again our family who may still be tapped into television to just consider turning it off, because the information that comes through television is called programming for a reason, and those programs take humans off their natural rhythms with nature. And so these princess lines, I'm guided to share about the princess lines, and if this love stream is inspiring, please share it. That's called gifting. And Facebook, Meta, whoever you are, it'd be really great if you would allow these great sharings to be shared miraculously throughout the consciousness, because we're all one great human family. So the princess lines. As I've shared many miracles in time, I was contacted by Princess Diana telepathically in March of 2016. And I never had any connection following the royal family or any of that stuff. So when she came to me, it was very, very clear. And it was very direct, just like all the information that comes in for me. She said, "You have no idea what you're doing for humanity. Now I'm going to show you how to unplug the Nazis from the grids." And I learned that what that meant, the Nazis was, in the fictional fiction, the misinformation system that perpetuated vibrations and frequencies and concepts and thoughts that perpetuated the notion of separation. And so she showed me step by step. She started informing me, and the information was absolutely miraculous. And all of the guidance coming in, it's just Diana has had this very specific piece that she has brought in to show Bliss how to unlock the grids and bring the grids back into alignment. And that brings we to these princess lines. So in the current home that we are stewarding, we were brought here in a miraculous way, and the day that we walked through the gate, Yogananda tapped we on the shoulder, Yogananda has been another great guide for we. Yogananda tapped we on the shoulder and said, "Oh, by the way, you'll be staying here." And so as the owner of the house, who is a friend, showed we the house, he happened to mention the names of specific Hollywood actors. And it was very interesting to we, because about 3 weeks before, my dear friend Universal Love and we were guided to go do grid work on September 18th of 2021 to release the head of the dragon, and in the fictional fiction place called the City of Angels. And all of the codes came in that miraculous night, like so synchronistic, one after another, going through the grids to unlock Gotham and to release the head of the dragon. So if this love stream is inspiring, please share it. That's called gifting. I haven't shared any of these miracle things publicly until now, and I'm guided to share them. I'm just moving a little bit because the sun, we love you, sunshine. Hang on. Okay, so anyways, we just don't want the sunshine in our eyes. I'm going to move back slightly. Okay, so on the miracle day, pull this way. It's good to make sounds when you do things like this. It's more fun. Okay. So on September 18th of 2021, we did this unlock of the head of the dragon. Days before, my dear friend's son, Su Wong, who is an incredible grid worker and integrous being on the planet, had passed through the City of Angels, and we hadn't seen each other in many miracle years. And he said, I'm passing through. And I said, I'll come meet you at the airport. And he was on his way to Peru. He was on his way to Peru to be with some of the head shamans. And so actually, not Peru, Colombia. Sorry, I'm tracking two things. He was on his way to Colombia to be with some of the Kogi and so on. The very same day, I saw my dear friend Chumash, who is a Chumash, and I invited him to come to the sanctuary space, to the summer sanctuary space, to do a prayer. And we did a prayer together. And then I went to the airport to meet my friend's son, and they wouldn't let son get back on the plane because of the conditions at the airport, and he needed something that had to be received in his email before he could get back on the plane. So I'm sharing all of this for a reason. Stay with me. This is putting many pieces together right now about the princess lines, which up until now I have not spoken about publicly. I've only spoken about it inside the pods. On the way home from the airport, so son had to rebook his ticket for the very next day. And he came home with me to the summer sanctuary. And on the drive home, he said, did I ever mention that LA is the head of the dragon? In the feng shui on the planet, in the fictional fiction planet, LA is the head of the dragon. New York is the tail, Hong Kong is the eyes, and Oahu is the pearl of the dragon, which is why there's 5 arms of the military in the fictional fiction, pointing directly towards the pearl of the dragon. So that was quite interesting to we, and we knew that this decode was coming in. So the next day, son got on his plane to go be with the Kogi, and the Kogi were with we, and they were guiding we, and they were telling we all these pieces about unlocking the head of the dragon. We're kind of peeling layers of the onion off of the matrix step by step to discover, to remember what is really behind all of this. So if this love stream is inspiring, please share it. That's called gifting. There's a little share button. You can share it right now so others can join us live. Okay, so we unlocked the head of the dragon by going to the Chinese theater and doing water ceremonies at nighttime. And I was taking pictures of the names of the Hollywood stars that were right in front of the theater. Jack Nicholson, Drew Barrymore, a whole bunch of stars. Jump ahead a few weeks when my dear friend brought we to this location, and I had already been hearing the princess lines, and Diana was coming in, and Yogananda was coming in, and many beings were coming in saying the princess lines, the princess lines. When I walked into this space, my dear friend who owns this space, so to speak, in the fictional fiction Monopoly game, said to we, yes, we rent this out for interviews with Hollywood actors. Can you believe that Drew Barrymore and Jack Nicholson have sat in that chair right there? So we knew in that miracle coordinate that we were tapping directly in to a location where the flow of the river, the flow of the meridians of Gaia had been redirected. And this is why we are on the heart of the dove currently, to assist our entire human family to wake up. So I have been stewarding these princess lines and working with Princess Diana, who also brought we the codes in the summer to unlock the port of Los Angeles. I didn't know it was her birthday the day we went to do it. It ended up being a big synchronicity getting there. And when we got there, she brought in all of her codes to complete that part of the matrix. Once again, there's no good, there's no bad, there's no right, there's no wrong, there's no enemies here. We are one human family, and we all have a role to play. We's role, unlock the accounts of the matrix, which is why we're gonna just like this again. Let's see if we can get the sun out of our eye. Okay, which is why in 2014, the head Templar of the House of Templar said, go find me. She's got the codes to unlock the accounts. I am sharing these pieces openly and publicly now because it's very important and it's very significant for people to know, to understand how all the pieces fit together for what is happening on our planet now and simultaneously what is coming in. So if this love stream is inspiring, please share it. That's called gifting, because the human family has the opportunity at every level to come together. On a massive level, it's happening because it always said, the meek shall inherit the earth, and the meek are inheriting the earth currently. And we are here to inspire. The guidance is having we say we are here on behalf of the Pleiades to invite and to inspire our entire human family to come together in such a way that we all unify in our gifts and our resources. So the princess lines. The moment I found out that the very same stars that I had stood on to liberate the head of the dragon had sat in this very chair over here in this sanctuary space was absolute confirmation to we as a grid worker, as we always get absolute confirmation about these things, that they're coming from a higher guidance to show us step by step how to do this. We have been a vessel of this transmission for over a decade on this planet to help and assist human consciousness to unlock from two-strand DNA, which is actually Metatronic. And a lot of people think we're going from Orotronic to Metatronic. On behalf of the Pleiades, we ain't gonna stop at Metatronic. And that's why when we moved into this space and began to steward this space and work with the elementals and all of the energies of these grid lines, we sat quietly for many miracle months in meditation and communication with all of these energies and beings to create agreements, to create consent with the energies of the elementals that had become very dense. It is said that as there was a fall in the energies, there was a fall in the elementals also. In the cities, in the nature, the elementals are unchanged. In the cities, the elementals reflect the fallen energies. They reflect the disharmonic that has run through the city streets, that puts humans in cities slightly out of touch, like 440 hertz, slightly out of sync with nature's harmonic. So if this love stream is inspiring, please share it. That's called gifting. There's a little share button, can be shared live right now. So some of we got placed in major cities, and at the time of when the quarantine was announced, one of the indigenous Peruvian shamans came to the City of Angels, and she made a statement saying, many of us have been positioned around the planet for very specific purposes, and that we were to stay positioned and follow the greater guidance. I'm paraphrasing, but this is what she was saying. So some of we have been placed in major cities to help correct the energetic misalignment, so that our whole human family can awaken in such a way, we call it the Miracle Jubilee, the celebration for everyone on the planet. And that's why we were brought to these, to open, to activate, to steward these princess lines. Because the guidance said the City of Angels would be the first metropolis to wake up, followed by New York, Paris, London, Cairo, the whole Nilotic Meridian, which is the grid line that runs through Africa, then Australia, then Peru. These are the coordinates from the guidance. So some of we have been placed in cities in such a way to shift through our physical emanation, our connection with Source, to be a conduit for an energetic shift in the energy to bring human consciousness in the cities back into alignment. The princess lines, the guidance explains, so in early December, there came a miracle coordinate called the 4th of December, which is a solar eclipse, 2021. And that was the miracle, everything changed. And the guidance said that the guidance showed we a massive Pleiadian ship over the planetary body, the size of the planet. And literally showed that we had shifted the energies in such a way that the guidance came in and called it the largest cosmic communications network for peace. And that is coming through these grid lines. So one might say, well, how can it come through a certain location on the grids? Just like we have a human body and meridians run through our human body. If you look at a Chinese meridians, acupuncture meridians map, it'll show the human body and all the energy lines running through. And that's exactly the same with the planetary body. It's got its own meridians, it's got its own ley lines. If this love stream is inspiring, please push that little share button. That's called gifting. Just like how the acupuncturist knows exactly where to put the needle in to shift the energy of the ley lines, it's exactly the same with locations in the planetary body. And that's why we were brought in to steward, to govern, to open these princess lines. And compliments of we's many miracle years in collaboration with Princess Diana guiding me. So what the guidance showed with the princess lines is that literally they're connected into other crystalline lines that other grid workers have been stewarding. So like stewarding portals, stewarding vortexes. And the guidance showed that on the Super Bowl week, we brought through a transmission called the formula, and the guidance said from that day, it was the Tuesday before the Super Bowl, I believe, or the Wednesday, I think it was a Tuesday. The guidance said when we brought through the formula on these princess lines, the energy was going to keep amping all the way through the 13th and the 14th. The 13th was the Super Bowl day. So when a lot of people aren't aware of these shifts occurring, but they get excited about big events, that raise in the human energy was enough for us who are consciously working with the grids to direct that colossal flow of human consciousness into a higher highway, these crystalline grids that many of us have been stewarding on the planet. So what does that look like? Stewarding a crystalline grid would just be like, there's highways that exist over here that are built, and then someone else builds other highways. Those of us who work consciously with the elementals, with the inner planes mentors, with the star nations, with the water, with the minerals, with the elements of nature, we are in communication creating these new conscious highways. And that's what we have been stewarding from this miraculous space, is these crystalline conscious networks. The guidance kept saying, if you build it, the energy can come. So we have been collaborating with pod all over the planet for several miracle years, and the pod was creating crystalline structures, and we created crystalline structures here with actual physical crystals. Coming back to our beloved brother Shane Shima, who says everything is myth, math, and metaphor. When as a shaman learns and knows that to bring things into the physical, we use physical objects that we imbue the energy of the consciousness into. And so we pod created a cosmic, beyond quantum crystalline creation in all of our locations around the planet, connected to these princess lines, emanating a higher consciousness, assisting the collective to uplift themselves out of the repetitory cycles of density and lower consciousness. Again, we are one human family, and so if one has a bird's eye view and can see that their collective family is stuck recycling down in energetics that just keep playing the same old looping stories, others have the gifts to create ways to allow the entire consciousness out by creating neural networks and neural pathways. We're sharing this in such a way that it can make some common sense, so that it can be more accessible to more people, for the epiphanies, for the shifts, to begin to consciously participate in the shifting and transforming energies. One of the things that happens when a planetary body wakes up, like is happening with this planetary body that some call Gaia Sophia, Pachamama, all kinds of names. There's different consciousnesses, but if we just call it the planetary body, as the planetary body activates and wakes up, because we are made of the planetary body, unbeknownst to some egos, some aspects of the ego, nature is more powerful than the psyche. And so many of we were taken into some of those realms and families and peoples and groups on the planet to share the message, to share the voice of nature, to say, oh, there's a shift coming. And we invite all aspects of ourselves to play together collaboratively. There is no judgment of any role in the play. Because ninth wave unity consciousness, as Carl Kalaman showed in his great synopsis of what the Mayan calendar was all about, ninth wave unity is transcendent of the hologram of good and evil. So as grid workers, what some of us have done, we've gone around and we have unplugged misaligned energy pathways that have directed the planetary energy into systems of abuse, distortion, corruption, lower frequency. And we were guided by Gaia, Sophia, and many other aspects of the self for how to do this consciously, so that the entire human family can travel together through. And what happened last miracle night, because as an oracle tracking the field, what we have been witnessing in the last few miracle days, and when we rose this rising, because we're always attuning to see what is coming into the field, what came in this miracle rising is that huge swaths of what's called the lesser Akash have fallen off. And what that means is that if we are still identifying with our old ego, our old role in the play is going to get more and more uncomfortable and difficult every day, because there is no stage. Gaia, nature, has removed her consent from perpetuating that stage for that old play. And Gaia gets the final say. Nature gets the only say, ultimately. And she's pulled her consent from perpetuating a stage that is playing out an old play that is not aligned with the true harmonic of nature. And so that's what happened in the cities. That's what happened in the music. That's what happened in the clothes, all those little tags in the clothes, tracking everybody. Ownership, sales, borders, boundaries, the planetary body being divided up by an egoic consciousness. And it was sustained through force and brutality. So as we rise up, as we awaken ourselves from those aspects of the ego that can be manipulated and dominated through fear, sovereign consciousness starts to come in, and we make different choices. Different information starts to come in, and there's a whole group of beings on the planet now that have done the pre-work, the preamble, the unification of the polarities inside of the self to hold the field, such that a massive field is now emanating from many of our human family on the planet to create more coherence for the entire human family to wake up from polarity consciousness. And so when we tuned in today, we went, oh, a huge swath of the stage of the duality polarity game just got washed away. And that's why Grandma Kiro, the eldest shaman of the Kiro people, was standing on a stage with, it looked like thousands of people yester miracle day at the Pyramid of Giza in Egypt. Guidance said first LA, then New York, then Paris, then Cairo. As we shared before, then the entire Nilotic meridian through Africa, then Australia, then Peru would wake up. That's what's happening. And what happened this last miracle few days is literally holes being punctured in the fabric of gravity and time of this space that we have known our reality to be, and particularly for the Western world, that the Western world has over-identified with forgetting our balance with nature. And so, as we shared, we have been placed in major cities to assist vibrationally to bring the new consciousness in. The hummingbirds always show up at these transmissions. There's a hummingbird right there. It's sitting on the branch right now. Oh, so beautiful. Many of us, and if this love stream is inspiring, please share it. That's called gifting, and we keep saying it because there's a little share button right there somewhere. You can share right now, and so others can join live. So we're just sharing a bunch of pieces as they keep coming through to contemplate, to ponder for those who are maybe trying to find their way through what is happening right now and make sense of things. This is what is happening. And as more and more come into a unified field, sovereign means that we have collapsed the polarities of positive and negative inside of our field. And it starts with the brain, because the brain has two hemispheres of the brain. And the old emanation that was being sent from the planetary body was actually creating an emanation such that it divided the brain. That's why we got to play the polarity game on the stage of nature, because nature was emanating a signal out from the planetary body that created that division of the right and left hemispheres of the brain. And inside of that experience of our avatar, we experienced duality. We perceived separation. We went through the experience as little feelers on the surface of the planetary body to send the planetary body information. And so the planetary body is learning and expanding and developing this akash of information through this experience of separation. Well, now the signal that is going out from the planetary body, it's been going through these gamma leaps. And beloved Shane Shima left a few messages for we, which stimulated a lot of things, because when we moved in to steward this space and to birth forth these princess lines in such a way that they could assist the entire human consciousness to change, the guidance said that the princess lines were assisting, stewarding in the Aquarian age and Delphi, Delphinius, the oracular nature of creation. So that feels pretty complete. We're just going to keep dropping in with these love streams and sharing these pieces piece by piece as they come in. They may inspire, they may not. Take what resonates, throw the rest away. We are sharing from a very integrous place to provide information from these princess lines, the most spectacular communications, Pleiadian communications network for peace, and we love we. We are moving beyond gravity and time of this time-space continuum. And because many of us came and said no one left behind, here we are in divine celebration together. We love we. Aloha.